All right, I came across an article from Yahoo News today that it concerns me, and it's nothing new. It's about basically it has to do with encryption. As I'm sure most of you know, a couple days ago we had the attack in London where a Islamic radical, whatever. I need to put it. Basically, terrorist wannabe ran over some people. He stabbed a police officer and was eventually shot and killed by other armed officers. And it was a tragedy. It's not something that's good. It's something, of course, we want to prevent and don't want to have happen. But the UK, or members of their government, are already starting to go down in my opinion, the wrong path. And so I'm going to read a little bit from the article. Home Secretary Amber Rudd told Sky News it was completely unacceptable that police and security services had not been able to crack the heavily encrypted service. It turned out that the attacker, Khalid Masood, had used WhatsApp to encrypted messaging to communicate. You can't have a situation where you have terrorists talking to each other, where this terrorist sent a WhatsApp message and it can't be accessed, she said. Police said Saturday they still did not know why Masood, a Muslim convert with a violent criminal past, carried out the attack, but he probably acted alone, despite a claim of responsibility by the Islamic State group. There should be no place for terrorists to hide, Rudd said in a separate interview with the BBC. We need to make sure that organizations like WhatsApp, and there are plenty of others like that, don't provide a secret place for terrorists to communicate with each other. She said that end-to-end encryption was vital for cybersecurity to ensure that business, banking, and other transactions were safe, but said it must also be accessible. It's not incompatible. You have a system whereby they can build it so that we can have access to it when it is absolutely necessary, she told Sky News. No, you can't, actually. That's not... It's like the thing recently with WikiLeaks and the CIA exploits and everything that were leaked. And to people who don't really follow technology too much, it's understandable. Oh, well, what's the deal? They were using them to get into things so they could track the bad guys. The thing is, those exploits like that or backdoors like that, that's not how they work. If they're implemented or if they're in the code, someone else can find them, just the way that the government found it or put it in. If it's a special account that they can log into, someone can, if someone knows about it, they can potentially crack the password or the login credentials, and they can have access to it. You cannot make some kind of special encryption or special software or special implement that allows just the right people to get around encryption. It doesn't work like that. Because, again, that's why Apple fought the FBI so hard during the San Bernardino shootings, to not be forced to make a backdoor to their operating system to let them decrypt the phone. Because, again, you cannot guarantee 100% control over it. You can't stop people from using it for nefarious purposes. In the encryption world, either it's encrypted and protected or it's not. There's nothing in between. All right, there's no way to create something that could only be used by officials and never be accessed or manipulated or used by hackers or by some other faction. It can't be done. And to specifically say like, oh well, they're smart people, they can figure it out. No, it can't. That's not a thing. It's not how that works. And it really pisses me off when you get these like these people in government like this. Like, oh, there's got to be some way. You're smart people, you can figure it out. No. It's like saying there has to be a way of, creating a anti-gravity car. You're smart people, figure it out. Like, some things just don't happen. All right? No matter how much you want them to have. It's like this saying, I honestly, I blame Hollywood and the movies in general. Pop culture, I guess, a bit for pushing this. But, there's this thing, and you see it in, I said, movies and TV all the time where, you come across, like, some TV show or movie, and it's got, like, some, a bad evil doer hacker guy who's just so smart and so intelligent he can get through everything and hack the government and all this other stuff. And no, it doesn't work like that. Like, it half the time, like the DNC, when they were hacked, the report that came out that said like how it happened, a lot of the stuff was accessed because they didn't update their fucking security. They didn't implement just standard common practice, security strategies in their servers and their networks. And if they had done that, then they wouldn't have been able to hack in. Period. Like, unless they had something like a 0-day or some kind of an unknown flaw in the software somewhere, which could have happened. In this case, it didn't. Then yeah, you can't get in. It doesn't matter how much of a genius, evildoer hacker a person is. If there aren't any security flaws to exploit, then they're not getting in. So that's, I think they kind of apply that thinking the other way as far as being able to get into encryption without other people knowing it. It's like, oh, well, if we find someone smart, I'm sure a really smart person could figure it out. Like, no. In some cases, it's not that, it's it doesn't work that way. All right, if one person can access it, then someone else can access it through those same means, depending on the circumstances. Like if they're able to get the right login credentials, or if they're able to get this or that. There's no way to fully secure that. And when you're talking about, a system that not only the bad guys use, but also good guys, also possibly banks and financial institutions and governments, that they all use, it needs to be secure. And if that key or if that way, that back door of getting in gets out there, which we've seen recently especially, there's a very highly likelihood that it would, then all those institutions, all those places, what if whoever finds it isn't doesn't feel like helping or doing a good deed and turning it over to someone like WikiLeaks? What if they want to use it to drain a few $1 million out of several bank accounts? It's not worth the downsides to do something like that. In addition, also, the idea that it's like, okay, they're using WhatsApp or Signal to encrypt their secret terrorist communications. All right, well, if you're able to crack it, and if those companies become compelled or required to turn over that information or make their platform less secure, then the terrorists can just stop using those programs. They can, instead of using the encrypted messaging apps, they can use encrypted email. If you start cracking or demanding access to encrypted email, they can send a fucking letter. And at that point, What are you gonna do? Are you gonna open and read every single piece of mail that comes in and that moves around the planet? At some point, it's so easy. If the encryption was defeated on one, they could just move to another and move to another and move to another until like I said, they could write fucking letters and send them through the mail, and then what are we left with? You either say, okay, we need to allow the government to read everyone's mail coming through the system, just in case the terrorists are using the mail, because we can't just let these people pass communications with each other and we can't see it. And so this is it's the wrong tree to be barking up. Trying to prevent or trying to circumvent encryption is not the answer, and it never will be. Like, it's not going to fix the problem. It's not going to make it impossible for terrorists to communicate. They just have to use different means. And different means that are already readily available. They're just not as fast or convenient. So I don't know. This is, it's an argument that really gets on my nerves because every single time that someone uses something like WhatsApp or uses Signal, or God forbid they encrypt the memory on their phone, it's like this big fucking thing. Like, oh well, we have to be able to access this. No, you fucking don't. It's like with San Bernardino. It's like what they're trying to get. I don't know. I guess trying to find out if he knew anyone or something. Like the guy, like, and I've noticed that too. They every time that like whenever this happens, it's like, oh well, we can't access. This encryption is horrible. It's preventing us from seeing what the terrorists are doing. Yeah, this is always after it's already happened. Like, after it's happened, then they realize, oh, hey, yeah, we totally weren't even looking at this dude. We weren't really monitoring them or listening in. And if it weren't for those few messages they sent through this encrypted software, we would have got them. No, it's just like, it comes out of nowhere. They don't know what's going on. They're it came out of nowhere. They didn't see it coming. They're investigating, and oh look, now we can't see this part of his communications. So we have to get rid of encryption. Like, there's nothing that has been proven that at least I have seen that would say that weakening or bypassing, requiring encryption to be weaker or bypassed, would in any way prevent any of the attacks or any of the incidents where they say that they need encryption removed. There's no evidence. So, yeah, that's it. Yeah, I said, it's a bad idea. And trying to circumvent encryption or weaken it is not the answer. It never will be. So, there you have it. Like, comment, subscribe. I will post links to the articles below. And I'll see you next time.